relentless. She's irresistible. She's the author of In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome. Of course, the New York Times best-selling author is telling Berkeley to put it where the sun don't shine when you try to mess with her and her ability to go give a speech. This has become quite a firestorm. Conservative speakers who are shut out from even given the opportunity to present their message. Welcome back to the Mike Gallagher Show. On our guest line, the one and only Ann Coulter. You know, I knew this the other day when they said, Ann, that Berkeley said no to Ann Coulter. I said, excuse me, you don't say no to Ann Coulter. You just don't.
I'm speaking one way or another, but you're right, and I'm glad you phrase it that way. These universities, as I'm sure a lot of your listening audience knows, certainly anyone with a student in college, they have become little fascist outposts in the United States of America, and they are so insular. They've been getting away with so much for such a long time. They just do crazy things like this. I mean, you'd be surprised at the number of lefties who hate my views, who are indignant, outraged over this. No, Americans believe in free speech.
Yeah.
And I'm also glad, this just, separate point on how retarded reporters are. Berkeley's latest move yesterday was to issue a press release saying Berkeley rescinds cancellation. Well, no. I'm still canceled for the day I was invited for the day my security, reporters, lots of people have booked flights and hotels to get across the country to speak at Berkeley for. No, but there is one day where they will allow me to speak when there are no classes.
Yeah, nobody's going to be there.
No classes. The day they chose. I mean, apart from the fact that I'm sorry, I can't make that day. I mean, I can't. And even if I could, this would be costing the California taxpayers hundreds of thousands in rebooked flights and hotels for me, my security, and retinue, which apparently Janet Napolitano, the chancellor of the University of California school system, is happy for the taxpayers to pay. But also just a quick lesson on the First Amendment. This is unconstitutional, what California is doing. The Supreme Court, many federal courts have repeatedly held there will be no viewpoint discrimination. You can't say, oh, liberals, you can speak in the evening. Good, we'll get you a big auditorium. But conservatives, I'm sorry, we're just going to at the last minute constantly change what the requirements are, force you to pay security fees. You can only speak at this 1 hour on this one day. I mean, that happens to be what they've done here, but you can't even, I had to say what the law is even simpler that. Towns can't charge more to particular groups based on their viewpoint, whether it's skinheads or Black Lives Matter. If they want to have a rally, you cannot discriminate on the basis of their viewpoint. Right. And any college student today, any college student will tell you, oh my gosh, that's all colleges do. I mean, the conservative groups can never get student funding. They can never get agreements to have a speaker come speak. I speak at a lot of college campuses. I am telling you, every dinner I go to with the Republicans, there will be at least one kid, often more than one, who will describe, remember this happened at Duke with the Duke lacrosse case, they'll say, well, I'm in this writing class, and I got an A on every paper I turned in until they wanted us to do a persuasive writing example, and I wrote in favor of concealed carry and got an F.
Right. No, it's
a Duke lacrosse player who was failed on some, I think it was a writing exam.
Pro Second Amendment.
A, B, 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 and then just out of the blue, F.
Well, that's what this is. That's exactly what this is like. But we understand what thugs and criminals are like. They put their black masks on. I mean, these are dangerous people that commit acts of violence. Heather McDonald experienced it out of Claremont McKenna. Same thing. And she wound up in an empty room. I interviewed her about it, and you could hear, and she was shaken up by it. She said, I'm in an empty room. They were trying to live stream it. That was their alternative. Yeah. And then they got her out of the room and whisked her out into a police van and had to whisk her away, because they were rioting outside and banging outside and trying to get in. I mean, and these are let's be clear here. Everybody listening to this conversation helps pay for UC Berkeley, right? They get hundreds of millions of dollars in federal taxpayer funds.
Yes. This is absolutely a case where the Attorney General, the President, and the United States Congress should get involved. This has been going on for years. This is just one small example of it. Heather McDonald, I've been saying, and so no one will misunderstand me. I love Milo, but I'm not Milo. I mean, here is a clear case that is unencumbered. I'm speaking on the topic of my second to last New York Times bestseller, number 2 on the list. That's the topic they asked me to speak on, and that's not permitted on a college campus. But Heather McDonald, frankly, is an even clearer case.
War on cops. Wow. Oh boy, that's incendiary.
She is brilliant. But leaving that aside, but the other point you're getting at, which is very, very important, people have to understand this. These polite liberals, professors who wear suits and ties and go around claiming that they believe in free speech, they are liars. This is the faces you're describing, the black masks, these kids carrying mace and knives and just showing up to scream and break windows. That is the face of modern liberalism today. That is university liberalism. This is what you're sending your kids into. And especially for any of you mothers sending young men to college, expect a false rape accusation and then an expulsion with zero due process. This is the face of modern liberalism. This is what Trump is up against. They pretend, they mouth the pieties about free speech, and then they allow the thugs to run riot, which incidentally is also an example of violating someone's free speech and one that has been considered by the court. If you allow thugs only to beat up conservative speakers and the police do nothing, it is the police here who are violating First Amendment rights, because this will be the third time, apparently, the third time there was a conservative event or speaker. There was just last weekend in Berkeley. There was a pro-Trump march. There was, of course, Milo Yiannopoulos back February 1st, and the police chief told the cops to stand down.
Yeah, I know.
You cannot do that. There is clear law on that. I mean, it's one thing. I mean, I don't know why you'd be mentally ill. I don't know why taxpayers would keep paying the cops salaries, but you could just say, oh, yeah, we're not going to defend any free speech.
None whatsoever.
You want to smash somebody's face, but that's not what they're doing. I promise you, if someone tried to break up the speech last week for Vicente Fox, the corrupt former ruler of Mexico at Berkeley, who was given, the red carpet treatment, I promise you, if anyone tried to shut down his speech, the police would not have stood down.
Well, and I want to be clear, too, it's not just the relatively new face of today's liberalism. I'm very interested to see if Howard Dean will clarify his tweet where he was retweeting a comment about your situation with Berkeley, and he tweeted, hate speech is not protected by the First Amendment. I mean, first of all, for the record, it is.
Wow.
Yep, Howard Dean. So Howard Dean apparently doesn't think you have a right to speak at Berkeley either, and he's not exactly a spring chick who just started marching around with a picket sign on behalf of liberalism. This is Howard Dean, former DNC chair.
Wow.
Yep. So there you go. I mean, it'll be.
I'm pleased to see that most, at least smart liberals, do not feel that way. I do not think Alan Dershowitz would agree with that.
No, I know he
Jonathan Turley doesn't.
Yep.
I can't imagine that there would be any law professor anyway who would say that, or the old lefties, even at places like the New York Times.
So where does it stand? What's the plan now, Ann, in terms of next week? How's this going to play out, do you think?
Harmeet Dillon, fabulous First Amendment lawyer in San Francisco, has sent a letter to Berkeley today, going through the law and going through how they are violating First Amendment rights and constitutional rights. And if they don't agree to a venue by the close of business today, we file suit Monday.
Wow. Because the speech is scheduled for when? For April 27th?
Yes, next Thursday. Oh, I'm going to Berkeley one way or another.
You'll physically be there, right?
Yeah, no, they're going to arrest me and throw me in the Birmingham jail. Maybe Trump will write me a letter.
Well, I'll bet your letters from Birmingham would be pretty successful as well. I mean, if you listen, Ann, all kidding aside, I said on the air the other day, if Ann Coulter Because obviously, I pray for your safety and the safety of everybody involved in this. If Ann Coulter said, I'd love to have 1,000, off-duty cops volunteer to help me with this event, I said she'd get 10,000, 50,000 volunteers.
In that case, let me say the following.
Okay.
I would love to have 1,000 off-duty cops protecting me.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not
kidding. I don't want to get my head smashed. I'm a girl. We don't get in fights. I mean, some of these young men, they enjoy fighting. It's like playing tennis for them. No, I don't want to put myself in harm's way, but I'm not going to back down to these fascists.
Yeah, that takes a lot of guts too, because these are not pleasant people. We've seen the video. These are awful people, and like you said, they're carrying weapons in some cases. They're knocking people down. They're hitting Trump supporters over the head with signs and sticks.
They're throwing these firecracker bombs going off. Cops who have been told to stand down. And by the way, I'm quite sure the rank and file police in Berkeley, both the campus police and the town police, are not happy about this order to stand down.
Of course they're not.
They joined the police to be on the side of law enforcement to enforce law and order, as Trump said over and over again. No, we are the party of law and order. And cops are the front line of that. I mean, it's got to be driving an awful lot of them crazy. I wish they'd call into your show, even anonymously, because I'm dying to hear from them, but I don't live in Berkeley, so that's why the invitation to come back one day on a week when there are no classes, among other reasons, doesn't work for me. Can't fly back across the country for a speech that, by the way, they'd end up canceling anyway. But I'd love to hear from these rank and file police, because I give lots of college speeches. My bodyguard meets them a lot, talks to them. This is what they do. They don't like sitting back and watching girls get pepper sprayed by mask-wearing thugs.
Yeah. This is what they do, and this is what it's become. And if we don't get a handle on this, every single college student who participates in this crap ought to be expelled. Every last one of them breaking the law need to be arrested. But I have to tell you, Ann, you've done what you do so well. You've demonstrated just how bad today's left is. You really are. I know there are plenty of liberals that have to be in your corner on this, and they should be, but there are a lot who are not. And when you see this breakdown and you see this anarchy and this total chaos, you're demonstrating what a lot of today's liberals look like, and frankly, that's a good thing. It's clarity matters here.
Yes, I think it does, because the universities have been getting worse and worse and worse. That is where the Black Lives Matter movement is coming from. It's overprivileged kids at colleges. You just reminded me, when they were imposing all these, their original First Amendment violations were to impose all these requirements on my speech that would never, ever be asked of a liberal speaker, which, again, you can't do.
Right.
You can't do it under the Constitution.
It's illegal.
Repeatedly held. But it was that the speech had to be held during the day. Only students would be invited. They wouldn't give us the venue until the last minute. We had to pay all these security fees. And normally YAF which is sponsoring the speech, and the student groups at Stanford sponsoring, they were saying, no, this is outrageous. This is a violation of the First Amendment. We're refusing to do this. We'll issue a press release. And I said, forget this press release. I want to speak. I love to speak. I love to speak to, liberal college students and have them ask questions. It's fun. They have fun. And not the ones who are smashing Starbucks windows. So I agreed to every one of their requirements, which were putatively for security. Though, as you'll notice, the daytime speech thing you saw last week at Berkeley, all those riots were in the middle of the day. This has nothing to do with security. No. But that's the fig leaf for putting it on these requirements that are intended to reduce the size of my audience. So I came back with, okay, if you guys I'm agreeing to all of yours, won't dispute how stupid and arbitrary they are. But if you guys care about security, here are 2 measures you can take, and I would request that you take to actually do something about security. Number 1, any student caught engaging in violence, mayhem, disrupting an invited speaker speak will be expelled. Number 2, you have a little chat with the chief of police and tell, her is the campus police chief, and him for the town Berkeley chief of police. Tell them not to tell their men to stop enforcing the law when a conservative speaker is appearing.
Amen. All right. One way or the other, Ann Coulter is going to be at Berkeley on April 27th. Keep us posted. We're praying for you, pulling for you. We'll see how this all plays out. Thank you for your guts, Ann, because, you know, it takes a lot of guts. Somebody asked me the other day, and I thought, I'm not going to do this. I would no more go near these bunch of malcontents and the man in the moon, but there are warriors like you who are able to do it, and I hope you prevail, and I hope it's a big success.
Me too. Thank you, Mike.
All right. All the best, Ann. Thank you so very much. Ann Coulter spending a few minutes with us here on the Mike Gallagher Show, talking about next week and her showdown with Berkeley. And, you know, she is right. It's important to acknowledge the liberals who are able to say, this is despicable. There's no reason she should be kept from speaking simply because we don't agree with her message. And this story has been just riveting to me. We'll see how it goes next week at Berkeley with Ann Coulter.